Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Tuesday Talks. I am your host, Kim Riley. I'm the founder of the Transition Academy Disability College and Career Planning Center, and we are really excited tonight to talk about a really great topic that is so relevant for the times that we're in, this kind of post graduation season. Wanted to give you a little bit of background on Tuesday Talks. Tuesday Talks was launched on March 31st in response to COVID. During this very challenging time, we talked with a number of stakeholders, everyone from families to schools to social services, our medical partners, our nonprofit organizations, and everyone agreed that it was really important for us to continue to stay connected during COVID and beyond. And so we decided that every Tuesday, that was our time to connect, and Tuesday Talks was born. We follow a pretty simple agenda. The first half of the session we devote to a presentation and question and answer. And then the second half, we share resources. We do deviate a little bit if the topic demands that we go over 30 minutes, then by all means, that's what we do. And tonight's presenter is none other than Miss Jaclyn Kotowski. She is a special education teacher with Guadalupe Center Charters, and she is also a transition expert. Without any further ado, I turn it over to Jaclyn. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So Jaclyn, can you share with us a little bit about why you decided to be a special education teacher and why you decided to kind of blaze trails in the transition space?
Yeah, so I wanted to make a difference in students' lives, and so that's why I became a special education teacher. I actually started with Teach for America, and that's what brought me to Kansas City. But I'm just finishing my 7th year, so I am obviously committed to still helping students in the special education field. In terms of transitions, being at a charter school, there's not a lot of we're small, so there's not a lot of teachers. So kind of starting from the first year, it fell on me to help the seniors to prepare for their next steps. So I kind of learned some things even just from that first year. And I realized that in order to be more effective, I just need to have more knowledge to be able to better plan and better serve the students and their families. So in 2018, I found KU's Masters in Transitions program. So I decided to pursue that. So that way, again, I could be more effective and to be a better service to those in my school and then just in Kansas City in general.
Great. And we had such a wonderful session this morning, just looking at your portfolio, and was wondering if you could review the work, the quadrants, and then I just love the flow of it and how it really gives families a roadmap so that they can prioritize and know where to start, because it can be so overwhelming, and I feel like your work really makes it digestible and doable.
Yes, thank you. And
do I have
that permission? Just share the screen.
Okay. I clicked.
Okay. Yep.
Cool.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and post that in the chat. Okay, so this is the transition portfolio. So it was what I created for my master's degree. So kind of like a thesis, but we made a website portfolio. So it has resources from what I did in the classes. Sorry if there's any background noise. What I did in the classes, as well as just general good resources I found, either from what I'm doing at my school or just resources from around the country for best practices for transitions. So the website is kind of designed in 8 domains. So these are kind of the 8 domains listed here. So you have transition planning, you have assessments, you have family involvement, secondary academic programs, community reference curriculums and programs, career development, interagency collaboration, and leadership and development. So each of these domains, I took a whole course specifically for these. So I'm going to go ahead and start with domain 3, the family involvement. And so kind of how this website is designed is the first part will be kind of the research. So what the researchers say the best practices are for transitions for that domain. So it is more academic in nature, but it gives kind of that background in case you're wondering, well, what do people say about it? What is family involvement? Or whatever the domain is. Okay. And then as we scroll down, that's when we'll get into the artifacts. So the artifacts are any of the resources, again, either from my coursework or just things that are just good practices in general. So for example, one of them that I created was the community resource directory. So transitions, a big part of that is a team effort. So it's really, I mean, that involves families, that involves the students, of course, it involves the schools, and then it also involves different agencies that are kind of outside of the school and the student, but just like Transition Academy is providing those resources, those medical, family support, advocacy groups. So I'm going to click on to that. And so this has a community resource directory. And so these are some of the agencies that I was finding when I was doing my project that are located either in Missouri or in Kansas City. And so what I did was I got all of their contact information and put it here to be able to reference. So, and I have it divided by categories. So if you're needing legal support services, there's a category for that, as well as the next one would be employment. So maybe you're trying to find a job. So I have all of those in kind of just a 1-sentence summary of what those agencies are about or what they can help you with. That way you can decide which one might be the best fit for you and your family. Along with this, if you need like an agency that has more than one, I kind of made this checklist. It is a little bit overwhelming at first, but if you kind of look, like if you're needing like Easter Seals Midwest, great organization. You can see that they provide adult services, they provide information, they provide job training, job placement. They also do youth services. So depending on what your needs, sometimes you don't want to have to go to 20 different agencies. There might be 1 or 2 that fit the needs that you're looking for. Another part that I was looking for this morning, and I forgot, I had developed a strategies and timeline. One of the questions was like, you know, what kind of timeline, like what are the best things to do when in terms of transitions. So if we scroll to the bottom, I have some just general strategies for parents, also, and then general strategies for students, like knowing and talking about restraint, exploring early on what careers you might be interested in, finding ways to express your feelings, etc. And then here's just kind of a general timeline for transition activities. So I remember this was a question this morning. So I kind of have it set up where it has a general timeline. And then if you want to know more, like, so for example, this one right here, it says join a parent advocacy group. Okay, so we have Transition Academy, but if we wanted to do more, I suggest in elementary school, right? So an example of a group would be MPACT. So that way you can keep up with the legislation. You could also be involved in that aspect. So I'd say being involved early on, it also helps you establish that network. That way you're not feeling alone in the process. So I kind of have that different setup. And as you see, I did start in elementary school. This morning I talked about how there's things that you can do in elementary school. Students can learn how to ask for help, right? That's a very important skill that they need. So having them learn that basic skill when they're in elementary school will help them when they need to ask for more complicated things later on in life. Disability services as well. Some of those processes for getting disability services, it takes a long time. So I'd say the earlier you can start, the better. I see some people shaking their head yes. So the earlier you can start, that's why I said, you know, might as well start that process in elementary school because there are very long waiting lists. As we get into high school, you know, it's more of the pre-employment services, visiting colleges, applying for vocational rehabilitation service, just basically getting those connections before you leave high school. So that way it's set up and it's not something that you're trying to find the paperwork that you got at your last IEP meeting, you don't know where that is anymore. So it's very important to set that up before you even leave. So that way you are more successful after. And I think that's part of what Transition Academy is trying to do, is giving those parents the resources so that way you know what to do to help. So kind of going back, so that, and I guess I should probably post this link. So this is kind of like a website from my website that I had developed. So I'll post that in the chat here as well, just the homepage. And then I'll go back to my transitions portfolio. So let's see, let's switch to, here, we'll do secondary academic programs. Do a different one than before. So again, kind of the research best practice, and then we'll get into the artifacts. So this one is a little bit more geared towards teachers, but like it has an example of how do you include transitions into a lesson plan. So I have a sample lesson plan template, common core standards. I know that came up slightly, like what standards is there? So a lot of the times teachers have that pressure of like, well, how do I add this all in? So there is, I did some work on like, how can you include this into the curriculum? I have some examples of IEP goals. Again, this one is a little bit more of a school focus, so I'll switch to another one, but it might be a good resource to look at in terms of like what you should be looking for from or hearing from your teachers. So what you should look for in terms of the IEP goals or what they're saying at the meeting. You can say, well, how is this linked? Like all of the goals should be linked to what your child or student wants to do after high school. So their reading goal should ultimately be able to prepare them for what they need for what they want to do after high school. This also came up this morning was what happens in college. So I had created a brochure of what happens for when your IEP or 504 plan in college. So I will open that up. Let's see. Zoom's weird. Let me stop. I have to stop sharing and then share it because it's in a Word document. So again, another resource for parents and students, and sometimes special education teachers, depending on how many years or if this is their first time working with seniors. So kind of this morning we had talked about that one big thing is that there is no extended time on assignments. So that's a big thing in high school is it's on most IEPs. But in colleges, they only allow extended time for tests. So it is important for as your child gets to be, you know, a senior, if they are planning to go to a community college or a four-year college, that they're used to getting their assignments in at a specific deadline. And then this kind of also just goes through the process of how to access the services. And this morning we kind of talked about how it really falls on the students to do it. So the students will have to bring all the required documentation and set up a plan. The colleges won't find them. The students have to say, I need these accommodations. So again, that's where that self-advocacy piece comes in. So if we're telling them from an early age, elementary, like, hey, I need help, this is how I learn best, they'll be used to it when they graduate from high school. Okay, I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to stop and ask for questions, or if there's anything that I should go back to on the site that you want to take a closer look to. I realize it went pretty fast, so.
I liked it. We had talked this morning about college and career competency, and I like that wheel, that competency wheel. I like the visual, but it seems to be. Can you talk through how the three areas are used to kind of guide students to determining their post-secondary path?
Yeah, so this is a resource that was, it's been developed by KU, but also Missouri. They use it too in terms of their standards. So basically, these are kind of those lost the word for it. The skills that that students would need to be like college and career ready. So, for example, and I know it might be smaller on your screen. So, like in the intrapersonal. So that's what's happening within. They have self-awareness, self-care, self-regulation. So those are skills that no matter what, like if you decide you're going to college, if you decide if you're in a group home, if you are, going straight into the job force, those are things that you would need to do, would help you to be successful. Interpersonal is how you relate with other people. So that's when you get more of the network, the teamwork, communication. So anything that involves interacting with other people. Your cognitive, that's where most of the schooling is. So it's problem solving, of course, content, organization, critical thinking, that's all in that cognitive domain. So the idea behind this wheel is that if you have the skill, like if you have specific lessons to develop those skills, so if like it's very intentional, either parent lessons or teacher lessons on these skills, that you'll develop them, so that way you're kind of more of that person, and you'll have a better foundation for when you graduate. Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does. So often we touch on it kind of in the framework of the IEP, but not really understanding these three areas. This is how each functions to lead to ultimate successful transition. So.
Yeah, and on this, like, I mean, if we were to click the link, I mean, I think you might need a login, but like it has a whole thing for teacher resources. So there's a lesson, like, there's a set of 7 lessons on how to build assertiveness. So, and I believe they also have some family resources on there as well. I know there is some, I'm more familiar with the teacher side, but there is some there. So if you're curious, you can take a look at that too.
Okay. Yeah, I have a kiddo that's like that. Academically, he's doing just fine, but when it comes to, and like, yeah, you could do that. You're perfectly capable of it, but we need to work on these things, or when you get there, it's going to become very frustrating and possibly not what you were hoping for. And we want you to strive towards your dreams. So, we have to work on these things to make sure that you've got the full, well-rounded education and the full, well-rounded skill set that you need to be successful in those, arenas. So.
Peggy, where do you teach? What school?
I do not teach in a public school. I do have a degree from KU in the autism program.
Okay.
I did my psychology BA at UMKC, then went over to KU. Was in the autism program, but I did adaptive curriculum and some functional curriculum stuff, classes along with it. And like right after I started my program over there, I started homeschooling my 3 kids.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'm on my 3rd one and last one right now, getting him ready to prepare to high set out. And then he'll probably go on to some kind of career development. He's not interested in college. So
Okay.
as of yet, we'll see. But yeah, my oldest son, he just graduated the Propel program. And he got admitted into the College of Arts and Sciences and the Communication Studies.
Nice.
So he wants to be a sports news person,
Okay.
more or less on the research end and the writing end, not necessarily the announcing end. Yeah, but yeah, that's, like I said, he's whip smart and real good with wording and all of that kind of thing. But when you get him face to face in a conversation and all that, it's like, it's like he's reporting to you instead of having a conversation with you. And, we're
he
working
knows
on
the
it.
stats, right?
Yeah. We've been working. Yeah, it's all about, well, it's not necessarily all about the stats. It's about everything about sports. And he doesn't follow just one sport, follows all the sports.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this COVID thing has been really difficult for him. But
okay.
Yeah, it's, my husband and I have been working on like trying to tickle the, get the funny bone. We mess with him every once in a while just to like, throw a something at him that, he's not expecting. And, we've been trying, but it's like he knows when we're fooling with him now, though. He doesn't take everything so seriously.
Well, we should work together and work on getting him some maybe some shadowing opportunities.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's talk.
Yeah, and I'm Vista with Propel, so I think that Kate wanted me to connect with you. I'm trying to help the people over at Chestnut with resources. So yeah. Absolutely.
We my brain is kind of going, so we'll work on some opportunities for yourself.
Yeah, I have to narrow down what they need. So yeah.
Yes.
Cool. All right.
Well, Jaclyn, we can explore other aspects of the site as well, other domains.
Let's see, what would be another, you guys can still see, yes.
We had good discussion about everything from, I know, interagency collaboration, because I think that because there's so many different ways to access the system to get what you need, I think this one was really, it caught a lot of our attention this morning about really being able to kind of work the system. That really jumped out at us.
Yeah, so I kind of scrolled to the bottom of kind of just the different organizations. So these are kind of your go-tos in terms of, I'd say, it's, especially if your students are in high school. So pre-employment transition services, they're from Mizzou, but basically they come once a month and they work with students on independent living skills, self-advocacy, career exploration. I don't know in terms of homeschool how that works, but I'd say if you contact them, they'll probably figure out a way to that a counselor could work with your students. I know our counselor, Terrence, he has been working with students virtually during COVID. So
It's pretty similar. Everybody's homeschooling now. Yay.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad mine graduated last year.
Yeah. Well, I took the experiential learning route with my kids.
Okay.
So because everybody's got a little something going on, attention deficit issues, some learning disabilities. And so, yeah, math and reading, yeah, we got to stay all over it, but everything else is kind of experiential. So we use scouting for a good backdrop for social, and being able to understand about community service and citizenship and all of that kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's like every kid got something different out of it, but we developed a path that would work for them, and we're broke, so it had to be cheap.
Oh yeah. Deal.
Yeah.
Another network too is the Regional Transition Network. So that's in Kansas City. It's kind of a collaboration between the Whole Person, Whole Person, KC Public Schools, Vocational Rehabilitation, Job One, Diversity Placement Services, Goodwill. So they all meet once a month and they plan different transition events, or they plan parent information sessions together. So that's definitely something that to look for those events. Like one of them, the Transition Resource Fair. So that's the one in Kansas City, but there's also ones not too far from us as well. Like Blue Valley has Blue Springs. And then also Liberty, they have like a Job Olympics. So there's some, even though they're not necessarily Kansas City, again, with the homeschool network, you could probably access those as well, or even just to get that information, because that's where all of your different agencies are. So it's kind of nice when you're going to one of those resource fairs is you have everybody in one place. And so you can kind of, again, see which organization best fits your needs, or even just making those connections. I know this morning we talked about one of the barriers is just, different businesses are, open to certain, I guess, like some places, they love having people with disabilities work full time. They take advantage of like the federal grants. But other places, they're a little bit hesitant. They're only going to have people volunteer. So the more connections you can make, the more possible opportunities for your students that you can find.
Great. Now, Jaclyn, I keep hearing about the DESE transition liaisons. How does that work? What exactly do they do? How do the students benefit from them?
So I actually happen to be one. So the transition liaison, basically it's, there's not many of us. There's probably about 12, and we're from the schools predominantly. So we're from the schools throughout the state of Missouri. And so basically our role is to serve as a resource. Again, mostly it's for a resource for teachers, so professional development, sharing resources, if there's questions. Most of it is, because there's the representation of the rural schools. I help with the charter schools. There's the bigger public schools from Kansas City, St. Louis. And then their role is to kind of provide all that information to schools so that they can better program for students.
Okay. Cool. And is that a pretty new program?
So I mean, this is my second year on it. I think that they've had transition liaisons for about 5 years, maybe.
Oh, okay.
So it used to be there was like only like 2 for the whole state. So that's
Oh,
would
wow.
why they've expanded it to include more. So that way the reach could be a little bit greater.
Okay. Great. Great.
And then another one from our area is Tina Glover. She's Kansas City Public Schools.
Yeah. Tina's the best.
Yes.
Okay. And I know that career development, we were talking through career exploration versus career development. I think that domain was really good at identifying the different phases too.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we had quite a bit of time on this this graphic. So kind of going from the career awareness to the career exploration, and then finally to the career preparation. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of those 3 phases. And yeah, so even as it says here, elementary school, you can work on those skills that are going to help them, like, you know, asking for help, completing work in an organized manner. Those little things will help them so that way when they get to high school or they get to a job, right, they're not, you know, having to learn those things for the first time. They've already found strategies for what helps them. We talked about job shadowing. That's something that can be done with middle schoolers. So depending, I mean, as long as you have, you know, good teacher support, or even families could just take their student for a day. Like I know, you know, sometimes they have, like they used to have career day where you could take your kid to work day, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So kind of something similar to that, one day getting permission from the school and taking, if you need to, taking your child to a place of work that interests them. This morning we kind of talked about knowing that from a, you know, a middle school age, they'll be able to tell you, well, I didn't like how you had to interact with so many people, or I really liked that there was so much noise. Everybody's different, and just being exposed to different job environments will help figure out what would be the best path. The career preparation, again, that's in high school, but I mean, it is key, like, for them to have some type of work experience. So that could be a part-time job, but for many of the students, that's probably going to be something, either an internship or just something at the school. So maybe, you know, for an hour a day, they work in the school office. We had a student doing that, where she helps the secretary, and so she'll help with whatever the, you know, or administrative assistant, I'm sorry, whatever she, you know, assigns to her. So she usually doesn't answer the phones because she has communication needs, but she'll help print, file, distribute letters to the teachers to give to students, those kind of things. Another thing too, extracurricular activities. So depending on your school, that in itself could be a career preparation. So going to games, if your student is interested in sports, going to games, hearing what the, maybe even saying, like, I want to announce for the school games, or just taking pictures. I have some students who are in the photography club because they want to do some kind of photojournalism. Mm-hmm. So those are different ways that are beyond the traditional part-time job, but something that would help them develop the skills they would need for careers.
And so I love the way it flows, so that when you get to that that final stage, that, you know, formal transition planning, there has been there's been the awareness, the exploration. It sounds like there's been an opportunity to experiment with exploration. And so there's so much clarity when you get to that formal transition planning that it's more than just that IEP meeting. It's really saying we have identified an interest. Now let's, go further with it.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I had said this morning, but the transitions should really drive the IEP. So it shouldn't be the other way. It shouldn't be a checkbox. It really should be the transition plan is what drives everything that's in the student's IEP. So even just starting off your meeting with what your student wants to do, or asking, what do you want to do after high school? That should set the tone for everything else, because everything the school should be doing is preparing them for whatever their goal is for after high school. Trying to see if there was any other highlights. This one has kind of an outline of work experience program. So that's what I was looking at to see if there was any kind of highlights there, but it kind of has some just different examples of how to put in workplace supports. Let's see. This is a good tool as well for schools, and I believe families can access as well. So especially now with everything being virtual, Prep KC, they have what's called the NEPRIS connector. And so basically your student gets to participate in a chat, like a virtual chat with somebody in, whatever field. So like this year we did one, the students got to tour JE Dunn without leaving our school. We also had one on financial literacy, just a basic, why is math important? So that is another good tool. Again, I'm not sure the access for the parents, but I know schools, I know all of Kansas City Public has it, and Guadalupe Centers has it. So I think more and more schools are getting connected. No pun on words there, but it does help kind of, if you can't leave, or if you don't have transportation, or don't know somebody who's, don't know somebody who's an OBGYN, well, the system can find somebody, and they can either have a one-on-one conversation, or it can be a group lesson.
Okay.
Trying to think, and then yeah, so just different things. I was just trying to scroll through, seeing mock interviews. I know Disability Mentoring Day, there's usually one on the Missouri side, one on the Kansas side, and that happens in usually October, November. But that is a good resource, and I think it's anybody 16 to 21. I don't think you just have to be in high school. I think it's for adults as well. So. Are there other questions or any other things you would like to explore?
This was good. I'm wondering, did we explore, I'm trying to remember, we talked through earlier about, family, community, and I'm trying to, let's see, can you go up to your domains? I was trying to pick one that maybe we did not get too much into. Let's see. What about when we talk about leadership and policy? Does that get into some of the policies that support transition?
So for that one, I'd say, let me see. So it kind of did, in terms of federal policy,
Okay.
in terms of what's there, and this one is more from a school reform
Okay.
perspective.
Okay.
So, but like this, sorry, I'm scrolling as I'm reading. So I think this is really, so like indicator 13 checklist, this is like what drives like the compliance of the IEP. This quality indicator of exemplary transition programs, it's designed for the schools to kind of reflect on whether their practices are just checking the box or if they're really providing those quality. So it is more geared towards like school administration. But again, if there's something in here that
I've actually never even heard of that. So that the quality indicator of exemplary. I think I've heard of an indicator 13, of course, compliance. So everyone touts that. I don't know that I've ever seen schools share their Q1 to survey results.
Yeah, so that one isn't a federally mandated. That's kind of a resource for schools who are seeking to improve. So
Okay.
this is trying to see if I have, and I actually so for it, it's like the school, like you rate yourself based on kind of what you're seeing across your district. So it has questions related to all of these domains, and then it kind of shows like, and I did this of my school. So like our student involvement score at the time was, a 2.5. And our interagency collaboration was like a 2. So that was pretty low. I think the top rating was a 4. So, we realized like, okay, we have to do more to collaborate with people outside of the school. So it kind of allows you to see what you're doing well, but then also what you need to improve.
Okay. And this is this a federal program, or this is through KU?
Yeah, so it's through the Transition Coalition. So it's a free professional development resource. Basically, it is a lot of people from KU, but it's more their research. It's not like KU specific. Let's see.
You said Transition Coalition?
Yes, Transition Coalition.
Okay.
They have a lot of good resources for professional development, and they also too, they did all of the research on, any of the big names in transitions are probably on the Transition Coalition.
Okay. Good to know. Okay.
And two, if you're like with your schools, I would think that they would be required to, if you asked, part of, our funding or anything is tied to our state special education profile. So it does have two categories specifically for transitions. So, and it involves a parent survey. So we just went through the auditing process. And so the parents had to all fill out a survey in terms of how engaged they felt in the special education process. So that might be, if, again, you're affiliated with a school or you're, I would assume that they would probably have to give, access to that. It might even be part of DESE public records. But it also shows how many students are being included in general education. So it kind of gives you some of those key numbers. Again, it's mostly on compliance, but it also has if students aren't enrolling in any college or they're not doing career, that kind of shows that within a year after graduating, that kind of shows, okay, maybe this school has some room to grow as well.
Okay. Cool. This is good stuff. Any questions or comments? Okay. Well, I don't know if you want to hit on another area or kind of wrap us up here, Jaclyn. This is so engaging.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can probably wrap up. I had kind of said this this morning. I mean, this was kind of my big project. So I spent, basically for each domain, I spent like a whole weekend on that, and that was after coursework had already been done. So, there is a lot of information on here, and so you could really dive into one domain and spend a lot of time on that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions like on any specific information, or if you want to know more, I probably have other resources that just didn't even make it onto the website. So.
Well, I say as a Mizzou alum, hats off to KU for developing such a stellar program. And I tell you, it's I'm trying to find the words because I don't give too many kudos to KU, but hey, this is good stuff. So I I have to salute the Jayhawks on this one.
Rock Chalk.
Oh, Peggy, you turned on me. You think you know someone.
See, I went from UMKC to KU. It wasn't had anything to do with any of that. It was just a program I wanted to be in. But my son, the sports fanatic, yeah, it turned his world a little upside down.
Yeah, he's going through withdrawal right now, right?
What's going on? She's a KU now. Yeah, so like homeschooling in Missouri is different than homeschooling in Kansas. Every state is different. So there's a lot more leeway with Missouri. Fortunately, we are a Missouri family. So, I don't know if Kansas is in that category of states that make the kids come in for all of the testing and all that kind of stuff. But Missouri doesn't. And that was a good thing for my kids because, stress is one of those things that will make them shut down and not show you what they know and what they can do.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that's good to know that you have that flexibility and it's working for their good.
Yeah. So it was weird going to school in Kansas, though, in an education program and homeschooling at the same time. It was like, it's like two different worlds.
Yeah, you definitely had one foot in each world, right?
Yeah. It's like, and then I did Lynn training while I was there. So.
Oh, wow. You know the ropes then.
Yeah. I tried to okay, well, I'm at a smorgasbord.
That's right.
Gonna hit the buffet and fill my plate with all kinds of international treats. So.
Hey, that's what you do. You take advantage of it, especially when it's benefiting your children.
Yeah.
So, Jaclyn, should we close out? And I will go back to my screen real quick. And what we usually do at this point is we talk through resources. And this week, actually, we're going to share Jaclyn's site as our resource list. I think that it's so perfect as far as really giving families and teachers a real good roadmap for how to tackle pieces of transition and make sure that it's digestible and doable. And then I also wanted to share that next week's topic, we're looking at studying, having a good discussion with Black individuals and Black families about living with disabilities while Black, especially in today's toxic times. I had shared this morning that I am not well. I had like a list of a gazillion things I was supposed to do, and this weekend I couldn't focus. Yesterday I couldn't get it together, and so in the disability space, we kind of keep things very, even keeled. We are very tone deaf, I think, when it comes to race. My son is 21, and I don't think we've ever had a session or a period devoted to just the reality that if you are a person of color, and especially if you are Black, you just experience the world differently. And so we are going to have that conversation next week. And so anyone who has some ideas, who want to thought partner, just let me know. But definitely, please make sure that you tune in next week. We'll have more information. I usually send it out Sunday evenings, and we'll start the dialogue of this much needed conversation. And then want to also continue to promote that we are looking at having a celebration for the class of 2020. We have not forgotten you. We are planning on Friday, June the 26th, having a virtual celebration at 11 a.m. And just today, one of our featured speakers, Johnny Gordon, confirmed that he would give a charge to the class of 2020. Johnny is a former Kansas City Public Schools student who graduated from Old Dominion University in Virginia, and he wants to let students know, if I can do it, so can you. And so he has agreed to give the charge to the class. And we are looking at some other speakers and presenters, and we want to make this just an all-out, bang-out event for our students and for our families, for a job well done. And then immediately following the celebration, we will have a virtual transition fair. Jaclyn has agreed to work with us on making sure that families understand their options. So because with COVID hit, the school year just ended so abruptly, and we believe it will definitely have a really dire impact on our students and our families who may not have been able to finalize their transition plans. And so we want to make sure that we can be that bridge to give students and families the tools so that when this pandemic is over, that they can transition seamlessly into the next phase of their journey. And you will hear more information. And if anyone is interested in being a part of the transition fair, that's class of 2020 virtual celebration, just let me know. And I'll definitely include you on that list. We are offering stipends to committee members, so we want to definitely just, salute you for your time, because we know with so much going on that you could have done anything else, and so we want to show appreciation for the time that you devoted. Any final questions or thoughts or feedback for the good of the order before we close? Okay, well, let's thank our amazing presenter, Jaclyn Kotowski. I like saying your last name for some reason. I don't know why, but I don't get out much, so it just sounds so lyrical to me. So thank you, Jaclyn Kotowski, for a wonderful presentation. I'm looking forward to working closely with you. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Stay safe, be blessed, and let's be kind to one another, everyone.
Right.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.